In today's video, we are taking a look at Bitcoin's macro and short-term price action, discussing how the charts are developing, what you should be expecting next, indicators that can predict the next top for Bitcoin, and even going into the altcoin season. Let's go ahead and jump on in. Okay, MegaWhale team, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you're all having a fantastic day today. In today's video, we are doing a complete macro and short-term analysis, as well as going over the altcoin season. By the end of today's video, you'll have a detailed understanding of not only what is happening on the short term, the key levels you should be watching out for, but of course, a plan for both the macro price action for Bitcoin and the altcoin market. We'll be taking a look at the macro charts as well in massive detail, discussing potential top signals as well as how to exit the markets before the bear market officially starts, whenever that may be. Before we get into it, smash that like button, hit that comment button, and subscribe to the channel. We post daily videos for Bitcoin focusing on the facts, the data, the technical, and the structural information. No hype, no BS, no emotion, pure raw TA. If that is the kind of content you are interested in, join us on Telegram. This is the first link down below. You'll get access to charts, updates, videos, educational posts, news events, and everything you need to stay in the loop with cryptocurrency, with Bitcoin, and the relevant economic news. And if you were interested in taking your trading to the next level, you can join over 700 members in the VIP group, where we post trading setups with exact entry prices, exact targets, exact stop losses, trade justification, exclusive analysis, and so much more. You'll also get access to all of our group chats, our general chat, our trading chart and education chat, our daily video chat, and everything else. Check that out, guys. Join up by clicking the pinned comment of the free channel by clicking my name or these two links for more information. Check it out and let's dive on in. So as we can see over the past 24 hours, Bitcoin hasn't really done too much. We are hovering just above the $99,000 region, just shy of 100K, which is again a good thing. We are seeing the price action showing demand at these levels after a massive liquidation week toward the downside, retesting 90K at the beginning of this week. And we have been managing to hold relatively well back above this prior level of resistance. In today's video, we're going to be discussing exactly what the price action is doing here. It is very choppy, and we're going to be giving you a plan to move forward with that price action. We'll also be discussing why the price action is following the 2023 fractal and what that could mean for the future of Bitcoin's price action. We'll be jumping into the macro charts, as we mentioned, going over a variety of indicators. Mainly, we'll be taking a look at the Vortex trend indicator and how that can be used to predict when the top will be for Bitcoin, as well as invalidation methods to discuss, well, when will the bear market start and how can you exit before that begins? Now, the bear market is well far away from now, but we do need to identify, how can we get out before that does start? And we'll also be taking a look at the altcoin season. So starting on the market data, 24-hour volume down 43%. The market is slowing down into the weekend after a massive week at 173 billion, still relatively high for the weekend. Liquidations down 42% at 172 million. 89 million coming from longs, 83 million coming from shorts. So a pretty even split between short and long liquidations, telling us already that the price action most likely has just been chopping sideways, which we can see it has been doing so. Moving over to the DXY still showing some weakness over here. We are above that range high, confirming the deviation, and therefore we are expecting continuations into those lows over the coming months. This will take some time to play out, and there is absolutely no rush. If we zoom out over here, we can see that flow chart we discussed many times on our channel, which is simply showing us that as interest rates continue to fall lower and lower, which is expected, we will see the debt to service ratios decrease, which will increase household cash flow for individuals and cash flow for companies on their balance sheets, which will allow them to use their cash to collateralize into assets to generate more income to again continue to use that income to buy more assets. And it essentially props up the risk asset market. And all while this is happening, and the longer this goes on for, inflation begins to rise as more spending occurs as the cost of debt decreases, which eventually pushes the dollar down. So we are expecting the dollar to decrease eventually. We are seeing a structure here which could facilitate that, and we are expecting risk asset markets to rise still for a little longer, provided this process plays out as anticipated. Moving over to the S&P 500, looking very good, closing a weekly candle above $6,000. Fantastic to see. Sitting just shy of 6,100. Again, this is now going to be our new high point, so we are watching this as our high we want to hold above. A drop below this local high will result in a correction back to our yearly lows. And this is going to be, or should I say, our yearly highs. And this is going to be the level we are needing to sustain above. Otherwise, we turn bearish. If we drop below this level, I will be turning bearish on the S&P 500. I have been bullish on the S&P 500 ever since May 2023. We've been calling for 6,000. We have hit 6,000, and now we are playing it level by level, playing it week by week, while remaining macro bullish until our invalidations are met. So before we get into Bitcoin and discussing the total altcoin market and discussing the macro charts, go ahead and sign up to BitGet, BitUnix, or BingX with the links down below. You'll get a lifetime trading fee discount of 15%, which can build up to a 45% trading fee discount. Now that will save you thousands of dollars in your trading career. It saves me well over $100,000 a month in trading fees, which is massive. You can sign up to the links down below by clicking those links. You'll support me creating the content, support the channel, and most importantly, you'll support yourself. It takes a few seconds. There is literally no reason not to. Go ahead and do it, and we'll jump back into the video. I'd like to introduce our partner, BitUnix. BitUnix is a global, non-KYC, no country restriction exchange, making it a perfect exchange to trade on if you're from the USA, from Canada, the Netherlands, or just prefer to trade without KYC. This exchange is a futures and spot exchange with over 200 different trading pairs and some of the lowest fees in the game. If you sign up with my link down below, you'll get access to 15% off your trading fees, as well as an exclusive reward center where you can claim up to a multitude in USDT prizes. So go ahead and sign up with my link down below for 15% off, and I'll see you in there. Okay guys, let's go ahead and jump back into it. So first and foremost, I want to take a look at Bitcoin's price action, and I want to talk about two things. I want to go over just a complete general analysis of what is happening over here, how the price action is developing, and what I believe is going to happen. And then I want to take a look at the 2023 fractal and compare that to what we have seen in the past. And the reason I'm going to do both of these things separately is because fractals are by no means an indication of what is likely to occur next. They are simply a pattern of what we have seen play out before, and sometimes when we see similar patterns play out, we see similar reactions going forward from those patterns in the price action. Again, history doesn't always repeat, but sometimes it does rhyme, and that's kind of the premise that fractals are built around. I personally do not trade based on fractals, and I definitely don't make decisions based on fractals, but it is a way to open up your mind to possibilities and be aware of these scenarios that may play out as a consequence of the price following similar patterns. Now, of course, the economic environment is very different. The environment in cryptocurrency is different, so we may see different reactions, but again, that does need us to take a look at these things anyway. So let's just take a look at the levels first and foremost from a structural perspective. We've mentioned numerous times, on Bitcoin, we will remain bullish while the daily RSI sustains. The daily RSI is simply going to be the uptrending diagonal trend line on the RSI that we have managed to remain above now for many months, essentially since the start of August. So we've got August, September, October, 4 to 5 months we have sat above this trend line. What this trend line represents, it represents the strength of price action, and most importantly, the momentum of the price action from the point of 49K to wherever we are now, $100,000, $99,000. It tells us that the price action has been creating these higher lows, and with those higher lows being creating, we have actually been seeing strength develop. We have positive momentum. It tells us we do not have discrepancies between, again, the momentum, which is the developing price action, and the price action itself. buyers are showing strength here. Buyers are jumping in and showing there is demand at these price points. So while the RSI is able to sustain above this level, I will remain bullish. If we see the RSI drop back below this level, this would indicate there is a negative momentum shift, and that could tell us the price action is overextended or has exhausted at these price points, which simply tell us that the buying demand at these levels are not here in comparison to the selling pressure at these levels, which can drive the price lower. And that's kind of the whole premise around these RSI shifts. Is momentum shifts. It's looking at selling pressure and buying demand and looking at the shifts between those, and at what point do the sellers take over? At what point do the buyers take over? So in my head, while the RSI remains up, while the momentum remains positive, I see no reason to be bearish here. However, we have to be aware of the possibility of pullbacks, and we'll discuss that in a second. So RSI trendline is the first thing we are watching, and that is the most important. From a price structure perspective, from a horizontal perspective, the key levels we are watching are going to be our prior lows. The most important level we are watching is going to be our sell side liquidity, which had been taken out. We took that level out very, very momentarily on this flash correction just below it. This level is going to be a very important level of support. We can see on the VIPV, it is going to be a peak on the VIPV between two values. This tells us we have a massive amount of historical demand at these levels, which we have seen. Again, massive demand at these levels for Bitcoin. If we were to drop below this region, consequently, we would also drop below the 4-hour 200 EMA, which is something to be considering of. But if we were to drop below this level, it would essentially tell us that over the course of about a month and a bit of remaining above these levels, the buyers were unable to sustain the price above this level, and the selling pressure was too large above $100,000, which could likely result in an extended correction for Bitcoin. That is something to be considerate of, because if we do drop below 91,000, the daily RSI will likely correct, and we will likely see an extended pullback. That is something we have to be aware of. So to keep it simple, we are bullish on Bitcoin, provided the daily RSI sustains and provided this low is able to sustain. If both of these things occur, we do expect the price action to gradually continue upwards. That is something we have to be aware of. Now, the next key level we are watching is going to be the low prior to this massive rally, which is sitting around 86,000. If we were to drop below 91K, 86,000 would be the target. And if we drop below 86,000, we run the risk of seeing a much, much larger correction for Bitcoin to 76. Now, I do have to make it very clear. I do not expect any of this to occur. I am simply telling you this, so if it does, we know the ramifications of it and we are able to react to it without confusion, without panic, without uncertainty. We are 10 steps ahead of the market. The reason I'm able to be 10 steps ahead of the market is I am able to plan for all scenarios, but position myself with the most probable scenarios. And that is what is always the most important thing. You have to be aware of all scenarios, but you need to choose the scenarios you position yourself with. So taking a look at the short-term price action over here, let's dive into it. For Bitcoin to continue higher, we need to see these highs taken out. We have this diagonal trend line we are watching over here. We can see we rejected from it now for a third time. 1 rejection, 2 rejection, 3 rejection. We will need to see a break of this level. If we break of this level, we are then expecting Bitcoin to continue higher, and these lows will be acting as support. If Bitcoin fails to break above this diagonal trend line, there is a possibility we drop back into this area of liquidity sitting around 97,700, where we then find a potential support. As you can see, the price action is incredibly choppy. There is no clear structural developments. There are no clear patterns. There are very few levels being respected over here besides that 99K level. So it is very hard to give definitive answers to what is going to occur. We only have to look forward and talk about levels that we know are significant and potential reactions at those levels. So this trend line is speculative. If we do break above it, we will expect continuations upwards into these prior levels. We're looking around 101 to 102. If we drop below this 99,000 support again, we could see a correction back to retest its lows at 97,000. Let's take a look at the 2023 fractal to try explain what is happening over here. Now, This is the 2023 fractal. I have taken it directly from the 2023 price action in December. Yes, this was in December. Overlaying it onto the current price action, you can see a almost eerily resemblance to the price action. If we were to follow the 2023 fractal, we would likely see a correction coming very shortly to bring us back to the 50 EMA, which is around 98,000. You can see we can overlay it again. It is suggestive that we saw this massive move upwards, a correction, a rally upwards, and this small little drop back to the 50 EMA before we then see a continuation higher. So if we are going off the fractal here, it is suggestive that this downtrend does not break immediately. We do not see an immediate break of this downtrend. In fact, we see a smaller correction first back into the 50 EMA, where then we will see the price build up again. That is something we have to be aware of as well. So the 2023 fractal is also suggesting that we do see this massive rally upwards moving into December over the next few days, potentially weeks, and then we see a massive pullback back into these lows before we then eventually build back upwards into new highs, 120, 125, etc., etc. That is a probable scenario based on the fractal. That is what the fractal is suggestive of. Now, the most important thing is that, again, we are able to sustain above 86,000. Because if we lose 86,000, that is when we see that larger correction. So really, no matter what happens, even if we see a rally and a pull down, while we sustain above here, we have the potential for continuing much, much higher. Okay, let's move over from Bitcoin to the macro charts. Macro charts, we'll keep this short and sharp, then get into altcoins. We have a few indicators here. The first one we are watching is going to be the Vortex Trend Indicator. The Vortex Trend Indicator is a momentum indicator, but it also assesses, again, the shifting between up and down trends and more or less the strength of these trends over a macro period. So it's telling us how strong is the current uptrend, how weak is the current uptrend. That is essentially what it is telling us. Now, if we take a diagonal level on the Vortex Trend Tracker, we can see there is a clear trend here where we have these lower highs developing over a period of price action. Now, that is expected as the volatility of the price action in each cycle is generally going to decrease because of diminishing returns. So we generally see the Vortex Trend Indicator make these lower highs over the course of its life cycle, which is expected. So we do not expect the Vortex Trend Indicator to magically break through this trend line and create like this brand new high over here. That would be kind of unprecedented. We would expect the Vortex Trend to make a potential lower high on this trend line, which would indicate a top for Bitcoin. So for top signals, we are watching this from an indicator perspective. Okay, but as I mentioned, to predict tops, you need to assess the price action week by week, day by day, because tops don't occur on the monthly, they occur on the daily, they occur on the 4 hour. The candle that is the top is not a monthly candle, it is a moment in time on a 4 hour chart or an hour chart that happens and then it is fleeting. So you need to watch the price action in the short term, and that, as I've always been saying, you need to play it by level as you are in price discovery. But if we're looking at an indicator that can give a good assessment of where the top is likely going to be, it'll be the Vortex Trend Indicator. If the Vortex Trend Indicator retests this level, I would be very hesitant in expecting Bitcoin to continue higher. The good thing is Bitcoin's at 100,000, the Vortex Trend Indicator is nowhere near this level, which could indicate we do have, a few more months of uptrend, which lines up with the 12 to 18 bar theory, predicting a March to April potential top before we then see a pullback and then a rally back into the end of the year for October 2025. Something to consider. Moving over, the next ones we're going to be taking a look at is how to exit before the bear market starts. We have a few indicators here. The first one we're going to be taking a look is the RSI, the 61.94 on the RSI level most of you would know about if you've been following the channel. We can see every single time we drop below the 64.94 on the RSI after being above it, we actually see pretty large corrections. Most of these corrections spanning about 15%. Some of these corrections initiated the bear market. In this instance, we saw the bear market correction. In this instance, we saw about a 45% correction. In this instance, we saw about a 35% correction. In this instance, we saw a 75% correction. In this instance, we saw a 15% correction. In this instance, we saw about a 16 to 17% correction. So every single time we see the RSI pivot below this level, we historically have seen corrections. As the same thing goes, when we break above this level, we see these strong continuations continuations upwards as we have seen recently. So the 61.94 in the RSI is the level I'll be watching. If at any point the weekly RSI drops back below that level, that will be a warning sign for me. The next things I am watching is going to be the leading span A and the upper band of the Gaussian channel on the macro charts. A breakdown of both of these levels historically have suggested the bear market has started. So when that occurs again, that is likely when I'd assume the bear market was going to start. As you can see, we are well and truly far away from that occurring. Let's move over to the altcoin market. The altcoin season is well and truly on its way. And if you've been following me, guys, if you've been following me on Twitter or even on Telegram, you would know that we posted this chart. Well, where is it? This chart on the 23rd of November telling you guys that we believed altcoin season was starting. It was starting on the 23rd of November. That was the day we said altcoin season was starting. And since then, the altcoin market cap has gained $200 billion to its market cap. And many altcoins have jumped 400, 500, 200%, which has been fantastic. So congratulations. We've made a great choice of selling our Bitcoin and rotating altcoins. Made a significant amount of profits in that short period of time over the last 3 weeks from this rotation. As we can see here, according to our historical data, altcoin season has quite literally just begun. We are coming at the end of the 3rd week of altcoin season. What we see during altcoin season is we see Bitcoin dominance falling, we see a local top generated for Bitcoin, and with that we see a continuation on the macro for the total 3. So we are expecting the total 3 to continue upwards on the macro, whether or not Bitcoin sees a local correction to 86K for a Christmas correction or not. We are seeing that money already rotate into altcoins, so it doesn't really matter what Bitcoin does over here, provided it at least consolidates sideways and is able to sustain above its high time frame supports. So provided Bitcoin is able to really sustain above this level, we should still see altcoins continue up on the macro, which is a fantastic thing, regardless of any short-term volatility or moves toward the downside on the short term. The macro uptrend should likely still be intact. Anyway, guys, thank you for tuning in. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and we'll catch you in tomorrow's video. See you then.